Hey there, friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and today I want to talk about the short and long-term future of the Destiny franchise coming off the recent layoffs, which saw a total of over 30% reduction in workforce over at Bungie. And this coming despite the resounding success of Into the Light and the Final Shape, and I think those two essentially just covered up some of the cracks that were there from long-term mismanagement at the studio, which is incredibly frustrating as a player of the franchise for 10 years who constantly looks forward to the new content when they drop it, now knowing that they are severely reduced in their workforce, and that likely means less content in the future and developers being fired is incredibly frustrating. But I'm going to go over not only what we'll see with the franchise over the next year, but where I see it heading after that. First and foremost, there were rumors that a Destiny 3 was canceled because of these layoffs. However, those rumors have been refuted. Jason Schreier is reporting that essentially there was a early stage talk of a Destiny 3 / spin-off project that ultimately didn't get that far and has been canceled for quite some time. They don't really have any plans for a Destiny 3 at this current point. And I think the reason for that is they are waiting to see what happens with Marathon and how much room they have in the budget at that point, because the fate of Destiny is completely linked to Marathon in my personal opinion. For Destiny, we have the next year of content mapped up. We have 2 more episodes that I'm going to talk about that content delivery style and why I think that needs to change in a little bit. It does feel like Seasons 2.0 at this point, and hopefully that does adjust over the next year, but that remains to be seen. However, I do feel like unless they have another major expansion in the pipeline, which it sounds like they don't at this particular stage, they are going to need Marathon to be a very big success in order to generate the revenue to keep making the large-scale content they want to make on Destiny. And so if Marathon ends up flopping and not making any money, we could see that also hamstring Destiny over the long haul, or the studio completely shrinks in size, cuts in half, and they become a one-game studio, which is another possibility. But as far as the content goes, over the next 2 episodes, we will likely see an increase in content compared to what we had for episode Echoes, and that is typically what happened with the seasons in Destiny 2 before they introduced episodes. And again, the delivery style, they're going to drop content at the beginning of each act all at once, but that still means it's split up over 3 acts. And I think the change ultimately will need to be that with this reduced workforce, with less developers working on the game, they're probably going to have to go to a small DLC style content updates like we saw with Warmind in the past. I don't know if they would ever do that because the battle passes, I think, are highly successful and they have to find a way to keep implementing that so people will keep paying for that. But I think they're better off going towards a DLC model at this point. Personally, I was against this for a long time. I know seasons and episodes have worn on people for a bit, but ultimately, I think it's the best way to keep generating content. I just think at this point, it's clear that that model is unsustainable. So if they can't do that, then switch to a DLC model, because with all the games out there to play these days, with everything going on, you're better off dropping a bunch of content so people can enjoy it right away and then move on and then get re-excited when the new content comes out, instead of trickling in content and then they jump in for a week, play for 10 minutes, and then hop right off because they finished everything there is to see. After episodes, we already know they have content planned, but what that is remains to be seen. They didn't announce a major expansion or anything like that, and I don't feel like that it's called Frontiers is the next step in Destiny 2, and I don't know if that's going to just be a continuation of episodes, but I hope not. I hope episodes was just a holdover, since they put so much into the Light and the Final Shape, that once we get to Frontiers, they completely change how they deliver content. And if they do that, if they do these mini expansions, then maybe what they also do as they generate revenue, as they make their processing more refined, maybe at that point, they, instead of doing a yearly expansion, they have an expansion every other year, like we see with other MMOs. And I think that would make the most sense. They've put a lot of pressure, and we've seen it in the past. Pretty much every major DLC has been delayed because it's just not sustainable, not feasible to generate the amount of content that they put into all of these new updates. And so I think eventually, my hope is this long term. If Marathon is a success, what they end up doing is taking a break from Destiny, or at least allowing the developers of Destiny to take a break from new content for Destiny 2 and either completely overhaul the game with a 2.0 type system for Destiny, or they make a Destiny 3 at that point. I don't know which one of those would be possible. Destiny 3 would probably take years to develop, so I don't know if they would generate that much revenue with Marathon, but I do feel like a complete rejuvenation of the franchise, and that means a gap in content is necessary. They can't have that gap in content unless they are generating money with another game, that being Marathon. If Marathon is not a success, if it doesn't do well enough to cover up those the lack of funds generated by Destiny, what will likely happen is this. Marathon and the development team there is removed from Bungie. They are probably going to be fired at that point, or at least moved into the Destiny 2 team. Then they're going to just keep generating content, and someone over at Sony is going to ultimately take over the studio and guide it in a way that can hopefully lead to sustainability over the long term. I am worried about not only the franchise, but the studio as well. I think with the amount invested by Sony, I don't see them letting it fail. I think they could do a complete restructuring, which would mean that Bungie wouldn't be the Bungie that we've known for a long time. But that's might be okay at this point with the way they've lost developers over the last couple years, and with the way that the content has been up and down as well because of their erratic schedules and everything like that. So ultimately, what I see happening is episodes finish out. We get a different delivery content style post episodes at that point. Maybe not a new expansion, maybe little expansions, maybe an expansion that lasts the whole year, and then we get a content break for Marathon, and that becomes the game that they want to focus on, and then ultimately, hopefully, we see a return to the franchise. We've seen it with games like Halo and other franchises that struggle to regain that magic. That's something that I hope does not happen with Destiny. But again, we're at a crossroads, and I don't know what the answer is ultimately going to be, but I know it is a frustrating time, and a lot of people are going to move on from this game in the near future, and I can only hope that they come back eventually, because it is a game that's felt like home for a long time, that I've really enjoyed, and that I hope returns to glory sooner rather than later, because I would love to fall back in love with the Destiny franchise, and that can only happen if we get content delivered in a style that is fun, engaging, and feels innovative, which I don't know if that's happened as much outside of Into the Light and the Final Shape as we would have liked. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Where do you see the Destiny franchise heading in the next couple of years? Let me know in the comments down below. My name is Jopa. Have a good one. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you all later.